Have you ever heard of a town that isn't on any map? I used to live in one. It was a place people passed through, but never stayed. Something about the air just felt wrong, heavy, like you were being watched from every shadow. The kind of place that sticks in the back of your mind, a forgotten memory you can't quite shake. For years, life was predictable, quiet. Then came the day the humming started. It began one ordinary morning. I woke up, and the first thing I noticed was the silence. My alarm clock hadn't gone off. I went to turn on the radio for the news. But instead of the usual crackle of the morning show, there was just this low, persistent hum. It wasn't static, and it wasn't silence. It was a sound that seemed to vibrate right through your bones, a constant, unending drone. I checked my phone. No signal, not a single bar. The humming seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I decided to walk into town, thinking maybe a power line was down or something, but the streets were eerily empty. It was just past noon, a time when the town square should have been bustling. Instead, cars were abandoned mid-street, doors hanging wide open. There, engines cold to the touch. Inside the little corner cafe, I could see plates of food left on tables, untouched. A half-eaten sandwich, a full cup of coffee now gone cold. It was as if everyone had just vanished in the middle of a single, collective breath. The humming sound was the only company I had. That's when I saw him, in it. The old fountain in the town square. A man was standing, leaning against the brick wall. I called out, but he didn't respond. As I got closer, I saw his eyes were wide open, staring at nothing. I thought he was dead. My heart was pounding, but I had to be sure. I reached out a hand to touch his shoulder. In nets, when his head slowly, mechanically, turned toward me. It wasn't the movement of a living person. It was stiff, jerky. I realized with a jolt of pure terror that he wasn't dead. His skin was the color of ash, cracked and dry like old clay. His mouth opened, a dark, silent "oh," as if it was trying to remember how to form words. The humming in the air grew a little louder. Shit. Then I saw another one. A woman stepping out from a dark alleyway, her movements just as rigid, just as unnatural. Then another, and another. They emerged from doorways, from behind abandoned cars, their steps stiff and uncoordinated like puppets with tangled strings. The most terrifying part? They didn't run. They didn't scream or groan. They just walked. A slow, deliberate, unending advance. They didn't need to hurry. It was as if they knew time was on their side. Panic finally set in, a cold wave washing over me. I turned and ran, my footsteps echoing in the silent town. I found refuge in the old town library, the one place I always felt safe. I bolted the heavy oak doors and scrambled up to the second floor, peering out a dusty window that overlooked the main street. Den below, the figures continued their slow, methodical march. They didn't try to break down doors or shatter windows. They just ... waited. They gathered in the square, standing motionless, their blank eyes all turned in the same direction. It was like they were waiting for a signal, expecting someone to arrive. The sun began to set, casting long, distorted shadows across the empty town, and the scene below grew even more unsettling. As the last sliver of sunlight disappeared below the horizon, something changed. Every single one of them, all at once, stopped moving. In perfect, terrifying synchrony, they all turned their heads. They weren't looking at each other. They were all looking toward the center of town. They were looking directly at the library. They were looking at me. At that exact moment, the humming that had been a constant background noise intensified, but it wasn't in the air anymore. It was inside my head. It vibrated behind my eyes, and then words began to form in the silence of my mind. The voice wasn't spoken. It was felt. You stayed. A horrifying realization washed over me. This wasn't an infection. It wasn't a disease. The town itself was alive. And it was hungry. The people who stayed too long, the ones who let that strange heavy air settle into their bones, ... They became part of it. Their badders were just vessels, empty shells that walked the streets, while their minds, their consciousness, were consumed, feeding the ancient hunger of the town itself. The hum was its voice, its consciousness, and I was its next meal. I didn't wait for another thought to form in my head. I ran. I scrambled down the back staircase of the library, burst through a rotting fire exit, and sprinted for the edge of town. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, my lungs burning, the humming in my skull screaming at me, pleading, demanding that I return. I reached the old wooden sign that marked the town limit and didn't slow down. As I crossed the invisible line, I heard a sound behind me like the world was tearing apart, a deep, grinding rumble. When I finally risked a glance over my shoulder, the road behind me was gone. It had simply cracked and collapsed into a dark chasm. The town was erasing itself, wiping its own existence off the map once more, waiting for the next unsuspecting traveler. I made a route, but I'm not sure I ever truly escaped. I live hundreds of miles away now, in a city that never sleeps, surrounded by noise and light. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, my radio will turn on by itself. And through the static, I can hear it. That same low, resonant hum. And in the silence of my room, I hear the voice in my head, a faint whisper from a place that no longer exists. We're waiting. I know the town is still out there, hungry. It remembers me. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever felt that strange pull from a place you can't explain, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tailies from the shadows. Stay safe out there.